part of the Earglue Media family of podcasts.
You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 296, the Rise of Skywalker trailer reaction show. So we are hot off the presses here. I think I've seen the trailer all of about 2.5 times now. And joining with me tonight is someone who's seen it 22 or 23 now, if I'm not mistaken. Jonesy, welcome to the show.
Hey, appreciate it, Albert. It's a pretty fun night. A lot of anticipation. We're finally here. Finally get a little meat on that bone.
Yeah, I was really pulling for the Patriots there. They were really giving it to the Jets.
They punished us watching this game and then punished us with part of a halftime show.
Yeah, exactly. But that's not why you're here. Although the beatboxer sounded cool, but that's not why you're here. You guys are here because we are going to do a trailer reaction show. So we're not going to, at some point we will. I think we're going to shoot here for Wednesday of this week. We're going to break this down Cantina Cast style. So expect, an hour and a half show there from that. But we thought we'd at least just kind of get together tonight. We got Mike well caffeinated. He's going to stay up, burn the midnight oil, if you will, and put together a show, get it out tonight so that you guys can get some initial reaction from us, some thoughts and what we like, what we don't like, that sort of thing. And so let's start there. Let's start with the first reaction, because I think you and I'm going to say Mike, who probably is not going to waver. He'll probably feel the same here after a while. But you said something interesting about how you felt about the trailer after watching it the first couple times. And what was that?
Yeah, it was a lot to take in. It was a lot of moving parts. It was hard to. Sometimes you don't always know if you like something right away because you're just kind of coming at you really fast. And with the different scenes and honestly, the feel of the trailer, it felt very different than every other trailer we've had for Star Wars. I mean, across the board, Star Wars.
Absolutely.
Especially for a saga film. And that took me a couple of viewings to really get on board with how it was structured and just what it was showing us and all the different parts. And again, trying to figure out how this fits in with the whole saga in particular in this trilogy. But after I saw it a few more times, I'm really starting to actually like it. I think I really like this trailer a lot now.
Yeah, I would agree. And again, I've only seen it 2.5 times, but
you're getting there.
I'm getting there. The first time though I saw it, I was driving. I was literally driving and watching this trailer. I know it's super dangerous, but actually, one thing that caught my eye was they were advertising this as the final trailer, and I would have expected them to at least have one more, maybe, like 2-3 weeks prior to it releasing. Am I off base there?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense for them to tout it as the final because, usually you get carved up versions, you get shorter versions, you get 30-second spots, 60-second spots. You don't get this full 2.5 minute spot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it's the full length trailer. Usually they just say it's the full trailer, right? And that's the one you get, and you might not get a bunch of variation, but maybe it's their way of saying like, no, you're not going to get a variation of a 2 to 2.5 minute trailer anywhere.
Well, and I think, and I may be off here a little bit, but it feels like you're not getting a lot here either, right? Like if you watch this trailer again, you can probably assume some things. There's some things that are very implied. There's some things that are very in your face, but there's a lot that's going on here that you're like, what is happening, right? Even the way just it's cut and some of the shots, some of the characters. I mean, there's characters that they're introducing in here for the first time, like Dominic Monaghan's character. We've got, what's her name? The bounty hunter. Yeah, Kerry Russell's character. We see her finally for the first time officially. We see all these new characters in here, but they don't establish them in any way. We'll just jump to the one that stands out for me. It's like the horse riding, horse riding on what looks to be either a Star Destroyer. I mean, it's just craziness, right? This stuff that's happening, you have no context of what's going on. They've not given you anything. And if that truly is the final trailer, they're really banking on that. If you're coming new, I mean, if this is new to Star Wars, this is not where you need to be, right? This is not for you. This is already, they assume here quite a bit that you follow at least 7, 8 and are waiting for 9. but there's not a whole lot there. It's really hard to depict what's going on.
Right, or they're banking on this grand scale. So maybe let me ask you this question then. If you had 2 or 3 takeaways from the trailer, 2 or 3 things that stick with you, what do you have an idea of what those are yet? I know you've only seen it 2.5 times, but do you have an idea of what that is for you? Things that stick with you?
No, absolutely. So, and again, this is probably good to ask me because I don't, having only seen it twice, there's only a few things that really stood out to me and that are ingrained in my memory. So one was the Raylo smash. I don't know what anybody else is calling it, but that's what I'm calling it. That was a confirmation that at some point they are going to do something together. And the thing that I caught out of that smash was Rey holding a dagger. And we can break that down and talk about what that is later and what it all means. But why she was holding a dagger, I mean, she had a lightsaber in her right hand and she had a dagger in her left hand, looked like a metal dagger of some sort. So whatever that Raylo smash was, and what stood out was not so much the dagger or the fact that, that something broke apart or whatever. It's the fact that they were working together. And that was something we've talked about before on this show a number of times, and whether or not they would, team up, and if this all kind of lead to his ultimate redemption type story arc thing.
Right. And I've slowed that scene down to try to look see if I can figure out what they're actually smashing. And I can't figure it out. I mean, it looks like a body of some sorts because it looks like a head or a helmet at the top that is still being blown apart, but it's really difficult to tell exactly what it is they smashed.
Yeah. Maybe it's a Knights of Ren guy. No, I'm
we're going to come back to some of that.
Yeah.
things that might have been missing from this trailer.
Exactly. Right. Where did they go? So that was, and the Sith Trooper, what happened there? But anyways, so that was one thing that stood out. C-3PO's line stood out to me where he says, I'm saying,
taking one last look at his friends. And they're obviously, it alludes to the fact that something's going to happen to 3PO. We don't know what it is, but maybe this is the end. Something maybe he's sacrificing himself in some way for the team. So that one. Do you think they put that in there for that purpose to give you concern for the character, or just to summarize the saga? The saga is coming to an end, and we're all kind of looking around and having this wistful moment.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I think there's probably a duality there, some dual purpose of that particular line, right? He's kind of speaking for all of us, really, I guess. It was nice to see R2 kind of flipping out too, right? The emotional weight of whatever's happening is finally getting to him, as much as they jaw at each other and hate each other at times, like an old married couple.
It was nice to see them together again too.
Yeah, I know, right? I hadn't seen that. So that obviously those two stood out. The horseback riding thing stood out to me because I'm like, well, what's happening here? You got it's horse riding on a Star Destroyer or whatever that is. Not sure what's happening there. And then I would say the last thing that probably really stood out to me is that very final line. The fact that we get Luke Skywalker saying the Force will be with you, and then we clearly hear Leia say always. And so that to me would, and this is speculation, but I would speculate that something happens to Leia. And if we're to take that as though it's canon and it actually happens in the movie, because we talked about that with Last Jedi, where we had a lot of voiceovers that some of them never came out. You always get that in these Star Wars trailers, right? Somebody says something or you see something. We've talked about the Rogue One, the TIE fighter scene, all that got pulled out. But assuming that line is in there and it's that same way, it may not be in that moment, but if there is truly a line where Luke says the Force will be with you and Leia says always, then one of two things happens. Either Luke is standing there as a Force ghost and says that, Leia responds with always as well. She kind of chimes in, which means all three of them can see each other and talk to each other, which would be kind of neat to see. Or Luke and Leia have both passed on and now she is a Force ghost in some way. And they're both talking to Rey, coaching her, mentoring her, giving her encouragement to continue on that quest of whatever it is she's doing.
That's a lot to take away from 2.5 viewings, man.
Yeah, well, and I want to thank you. Yeah, I need to dig into it, and that's what I'm saying. I think we can do this. Yeah. We'll probably pull a 3-hour show for Mike tomorrow or on Wednesday. But what about you? What stood out for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Kylo and Rey moments, I think throughout the trailer, because I think even the way that her line when they're standing out with all the waves and everything coming around it, no one truly knows her. Like the way that she delivers that line like was really had kind of a dark touch to it. And I really liked that. And then of course you have the image of Kylo coming out and saying, I do, right? Which is, it's going to drive a certain set of the fandom pretty crazy, excited, happy, especially with the Marvel team up going on a little bit later on. But I think just the way that they framed that scene with the voiceovers, I thought was really well done. And that really stuck with me there. One of the other scenes that I really enjoyed were, I mean, of course, all the Palpatine stuff, right? The voiceover work, the idea of everybody is coming together and that is going to be their undoing. Just all that kind of that theme, right? And we have a lot of speculation about what that actually means. So who all has come together, right? Is it just our heroes? Is it just Rey and Kylo, or is it, you know, does Luke show up and others? I mean, there's a bunch of ways you could take a lot of that, but then to actually, so seeing the throne, the empty throne was really cool. I did not expect to see even just the kind of the behind and to the right shoulder of Palpatine and be able to see the cloak kind of flowing and him coming down towards Rey. He has the high ground officially, but but him kind of coming towards Rey, and you see Rey kind of take that step back. You could tell that she's really taken aback by this visage of presumably Palpatine. But I really did not expect that, and that was really cool to be able to see, because it really now feels like Palpatine is actually real, and that he's like he says, he's waited a long time. And it's all signs kind of point that way right now, right?
Yeah, I know. I mean, as much as we speculated, whether or not he was real or just some kind of ghost manifestation, and I'm looking at this now because to be honest, I remembered her staring at something. I did not realize that was Palpatine, and I'm seeing it for my third viewing, and yeah, that really is him. What is he on?
Yeah, it's like some sort of
machine,
some sort of machine coming down. I mean, there's a lot of speculation about. Yeah, if he's physically alive, is he on some sort of life support, or is he still growing his power? Or I don't know, it's kind of, this is like Harry Potter stuff again. Like, how is he regenerating or something like that? Yeah. So a lot of speculation there, which we can dive into another time. But just having him there was like another, oh my goodness moment of like, he's finally real. And it kind of re-energized me from the original teaser that we got at Celebration, that first moment of hearing the laugh and just having that anticipation that he's back. And now that he's physically back, potentially, was really, really exciting. I really enjoyed that. And I think that generally, one of the other things that I really liked in this was the Star Destroyer coming up out of the ground. Like, at first I thought there was water or something like that. But when I went back and replayed it, and this is, I think, in the first half of the trailer.
Yeah, it's like right after they show the throne.
Yeah, it's coming up out of some sort of rock or stone or something like that. And it's just, of course, you got the lightning and everything around it, but it's emerging out of this cocoon, if you will. And it was just, the more I replayed it and watched it, I was like, that's just really cool imagery. And there was a lot of image, and that's kind of where I want to go with this. The imagery of the trailer is really pretty neat.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, like at the 50-second mark of this, you've got TIE fighters coming into this like ice type of, I don't even know what you call it, floating ice thing. And I don't know if this is in
Fortress
space
of Solitude.
It kind of reminds you of that. But it's this thing that's suspended, right? And so, but you just get this imagery. And like you said, the horses on the Star Destroyer is just so disorienting. Like, how is that possible? Where are they at? Because you have Star Destroyers all over the place in the background. And so what does all this stuff mean? But you're just left with this incredible scale. Like the Resistance, all of a sudden now we've got the Falcon coming into frame. We do have the Ghost over to the right. Firmly believe that.
Mm-hmm.
But you have this massive fleet behind you. And of course, we've been asking for a long time of where the hell is the fleet? Is there a fleet? And now all of a sudden we've got this epic scale on the side of our heroes, right? But so this is the part, but I just kind of, I just kind of came back to the scale of this movie, started to really push me back in my seat of, oh my goodness, this thing is going to be massive. And we'll probably put everything else we've seen that we thought was massive before to shame. And hopefully that's delivered in a good way. But that's started what I started to take away from it. Is like, man, this thing is just going to be huge on many levels.
Yeah. Well, let's come back to the trailer in just 1 second. I do want to talk about the release today. Obviously tickets went on sale, and we got the final runtime for the movie, which came in at 2 hours and 35 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And you said there was some kerfuffle about the length, whether it was too long, too not enough. What's going on there?
Yeah, we were talking about this in Discord. If you want to join us on Discord, eargluemedia.com/Discord. And some people were really hoping for a 3-hour movie, or maybe even more than 3 hours, or something pushing 3 hours, to really feel like kind of an epic conclusion, really be able to tie up whatever loose ends, have the time to be able to finish it out. I think that's more or less the general motive I'll assign to some of that. I probably got some of that wrong, folks, so I'm sorry if I'm misrepresenting your opinion, but I think collectively it's kind of in that direction. I don't really have a problem if it was 3 hours. I'm okay with 2.5. I was cool with 2:30 up to about 2:40, 2:45. And I would have been okay in that range, thinking that's really good. And we've talked a little bit about this before of, I don't necessarily need to push a movie longer to try to wrap it up, because it sometimes means I probably didn't do enough to get it there in the first place. But I'm okay with this runtime, because the longer the movie goes, the longer you got to be able to sit there. And quite honestly, what I don't want is to have multiple. I remember with Return of the King, when Return of the King came out, epic scale, amazing movie, but it felt like it ended like 3 or 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
Or it should have ended 3 or 4 or 5 times. That's what I get worried about when you start drawing them out. Is like, are you adding too many endings? Are you adding too many pause points that have some inconsistencies of what you might have been able to tell with a tighter story? So I'll kind of shut up from that. But that's that's some of the feedback that we got on Discord. And I'm actually pretty okay with the runtime. It fits with the other movies for the most part. And I think it's plenty of time for them to be able to wrap up the story if they do it in the right way.
Yeah, I went through there. I don't think there's a prescription in terms of how long a movie should go. That said, I think unofficially in my mind, I think maybe I probably would have been a little bit more, I don't know, I won't say disgruntled, but it would have bothered me had it not been at least 2 hours and 30 minutes. And I don't know what 2 hours and 30 minutes represents really, other than it's a nice clean number. But right. I would expect a movie of this scale, given that it's trying to wrap up not only this trilogy, but the saga in its entirety, would need to, it just seems like logically you're probably going to have to squeeze in quite a bit. And so at 2:30, that probably feels about right. I would have been, there would have probably been some discomfort had it been shorter, but if it went 3 hours, I guess I wouldn't complain either. But to your point, anything over that, you're like, okay, so why are we doing it all here now? Right.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. 2:15, 2:20, I think would have felt a little on the short side for what we need to tell. And again, the scale of everything you got to do. So that's why I feel
there was
comfortable where it's at.
Yeah, no, there's so many huge elements in here that we were not expecting. I mean, we've speculated about this movie for some time now, and even on probably the more conservative side of things, I would have never considered that the Emperor would be back, and they've decided to keep Leia involved in some way, so they've got to wrap that up. We've got Solo, we've got Ben's story. Right. We've got Rey's story. We've got a number of other character relationships that were established in The Last Jedi. What's going on with Rose and Finn? What's going on with Poe and maybe Rey? I don't know. Right. I mean, there's just so many things that they've kind of seeded out there. Right. And stoked for us. Snoke, Knights of Ren. I mean, it goes on and on and on, that you would expect that they're going to have some time and dedicate some time to this stuff. Otherwise, they're going to drop them. And then we're probably going to have to, if they do pick them up, we'll get them in novels or comics or TV series, that kind of thing. But, all right. So I guess overall, one thing you mentioned, and I want to reiterate as well, is visually, this trailer looks amazing. The color throughout is just awesome. And I mean, I think we come to expect that probably from somebody like J.J. Abrams. I mean, he's just become a very master at that type of stuff. And I want to say the opening scene, as I was kind of talking and playing this thing again, this opening scene reminds me of like Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's just, it opens with a jungle. You've got the sound effects. It's very Spielberg-ish, that somebody runs right in, like you see a footprint that runs into the shot. That is very Spielberg. In fact, there's a scene from Saving Private Ryan with the rain that's coming down, and suddenly you start seeing the boots run, that kind of thing. So, but I mean, overall, this guy, I think he's really poured a lot into it, and I'm basing this solely on the trailer so far, but I think we're in for a pretty spectacular visual treat with regards to like the coloring and the cinematography and just some of the shots that he's put together here. I think he's doing some really cool stuff.
Well, the tone is so dark throughout a big chunk of this trailer.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's a really moody kind of trailer. Once you get out of those jungle scenes, it really has a the whole thing turns. And for the first time, it really feels like there is something somewhat at risk here, or some sort of actual tangible danger. And maybe that's because we equate that to Palpatine, that he's actually a very, someone to actually fear for the most part. But I think just overall, like this ominous kind of feel that just hangs over this trailer. I really like that, but it also feels like a really dark Star Wars movie, potentially the darkest Star Wars movie that that we'll probably watch to date.
Yeah, I can see that. Sorry, I got caught listening and watching at the same time, but there are moments in here that even the tone, like you said, like it's very unconventional for a trailer, and even a Star Wars trailer. The way they've pieced this together, it's just very different. I'll have to take a couple more viewings, and there's this whole scene with them running down the hallway, just blasting stormtroopers. That's pretty cool too. I just didn't even. I don't think I even caught that the first time around. We haven't talked about Lando. We got to see him twice. We got him screaming again, and there's a moment shot in there where he's kind of sitting there and getting a debriefing. But any idea, any speculation around who's flying that Y-wing?
No, actually, I don't. Because I don't know if it has really any importance to it.
Well, and that's why I'm asking.
But it's shown up a few times now. And they've had a Lego figure or a Lego building set for it too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember when that came out too, and that Y-wing leaked that it was part of this line of Legos. Oh my goodness, Legos that was coming out. Everybody was saying, well, there's not going to be there probably won't be a Y-wing in there. Why would they do that? It's probably just they're bringing it back, or they've redone the model, that kind of thing. But now that it's propped up a few times, it's starting to get me wonder. But I'm looking at it, and that's a bomber, right? The fact that it's flying the way it is, and someone's using it, flying it like a fighter. I wonder if that's somebody like
Poe or something like that.
Yeah, right. Like showing off or something. But yeah, there's some pretty precise shots there in that.
I mean, it could be Snap. It could be someone from Black Squadron. I mean, you could probably plug a few people in there that we could probably pull some choice picks out, but yeah, difficult to say right now. But yeah, that's some fancy flying for a bomber.
Yeah. And it could be nothing. It could just be a cool shot, right? Who knows? But the fact that they decided to showcase that in this trailer is interesting.
One thing I do have to point out, though, the music on this trailer is freaking epic. Yeah. I mean, the first half of it, you just get these little chime type of tones throughout it, building that anticipation. But when we get to the last half of the trailer, just the slow theme, you really feel the gravitas of it, the weight, the finality of it all. Yeah. And man, the score, I mean, if this track, God, I hope the whole track is on the soundtrack and make it to the movie, because we never know. Thanks, Solo. But I really hope that the soundtrack captures this same type of spirit to where we get this, because I love the variations on the main theme and on the hero themes, especially when they really slow them down and they make them these really grand, broad numbers. And it just to me, that's what captures my excitement the most whenever I get this music, that you tell it's there, it's playing its own part in the movie, and it is as much part of the movie as everything that you're seeing on the screen. And that's something that generally John Williams does really, really well. And that, of course, Star Wars is synonymous with for most of the films. I think a couple of them are probably not as efficient in that way. But man, for this trailer, the soundtrack that the selection that they made was phenomenal. And I am super excited to be able to get my hands on the soundtrack now.
Yeah, that piece that you're talking about there at the very end, that feels like something you would hear right at the very end of the movie, right? In some really glorious kind of celebrational moment, which would be very emotional too, because that is obviously the main theme, and the fact that it's just as grand as it is, it's very reminiscent of the throne room, or the medal ceremony from Episode 4, right? Something of that scale.
Actually, the throne room. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But yeah, something of that scale. But yeah, it does kind of have a different feel to it, a bigger feel, a grander feel than maybe some of the most of the music, I would say, with Star Wars, as crazy as that sounds. Maybe not more than obviously the main title, but it's just, I don't know. It's going to be great. I'm pretty excited about it. And I can't wait to see what John Williams does. Like, we've talked about this too, right? It's one thing to kind of bring all the movies together and tie all these plot lines together, but musically, what is he going to pull from? And how much of so many great tracks that he's created over the course of these 9 movies is he going to be able to pull in and weave into one another? I mean, we saw some of that in The Last Jedi. We saw some in The Force Awakens. But this is really kind of I really feel like this is going to be kind of an opus for him, really, even more than just Star Wars. I think given his age and where he's at, I mean, I don't want to take anything away from him. Maybe he's got probably 20 more years left in him to crank out some really good stuff. But this really feels like it's going to be kind of an opus for him. So can't wait to hear it.
So all in all, talking about it for the last 20 minutes or so, watching it a few times now, does it have you more excited for the movie, about the same or less? Or how are you trending now that you've seen this, knowing that you're going to see it another dozen or so times, of course, probably by the end of the night? But how are you feeling about the movie overall? Again, not having a total picture of how this story is coming together, but just everything that we've seen and talked about so far. Which way are you trending?
I would say my initial reaction was kind of like with you guys, obviously, where it was just kind of like, what? It took a while to process this trailer. And I would say initially I didn't feel as excited. There weren't moments in this trailer from when I first watched it that got my blood pumping, right? I guess I was hoping or wanting the action type stuff or getting some serious, Palpatine moments, that kind of thing. And so that's because that was my expectation. I think I felt let down. But now that I've seen it 3 times, 4 times ish, I'm starting to understand that that's not really what they were. It doesn't feel like. Well, it doesn't feel. This is not what they were going for. Okay, they weren't trying to do that, and I get they probably didn't have to, because I can tell you right now, I had already bought tickets for a 6 p.m. showing, an 11 p.m. showing, an 8 a.m. on Saturday or Friday morning, and then I bought another 6 tickets on Saturday, right? So I've already spent $150 on tickets before I had even seen the trailer, right? So is it changing my mind? Am I not going to go see it? Absolutely not. And I think if for the most part, if you're listening to the show, you're listening to a Star Wars podcast, whether this trailer moved you in any way or not isn't going to change whether you see it opening night or whether you plan on seeing it 2 or 3 times. And I think maybe that's what they were going for with this trailer. I think they've put this together with a different kind of approach. I don't think they're trying to hook people into going to see a new Star Wars movie. They are really putting this out there for people that have been waiting for, the 9th movie to come out, that have been with this franchise, whether it's in the last 5 years or the last 40 years. It's a different kind of trailer. So I guess all that to say, I am excited about it, and I do enjoy the trailer. I have liked it so far as much as I have, and I actually want to break it down on Wednesday. Like, I really want to get into some of this stuff, because we've only scratched the surface here, folks. There's a lot here that has just got me, again, I got my wheels kind of spinning and things I want to get off my chest. So, but that's enough about me. What about you? How are you feeling? How are you trending now that you've seen it 27 times?
Right. Yeah. Similar vibe as I start to pick through it and see certain scenes like Kylo and Rey on the Death Star in the throne room, the Emperor's chair trashed. Moments like that, like you just start to pull through it, and I can't help but get more excited about this. I'm more excited about the movie now, I think, with this trailer than I was the original one. Getting the overdub for Ian McDiarmid for the Emperor and some of the scenes and getting a better idea of the fleets and of where what the Star Destroyers are all looking like. I mean, again, there's a lot to figure out there. Yeah. But I think overall, I am way more excited now as a result, and knowing that we're less than 2 months away and get my tickets as well. I don't have like 6 sets of tickets already like you do, but working on it. But it's just really starting to come together a little bit, and to be able to get the visuals of all of these different environments, and to be able to see the characters, and to be able to see, we have Kylo with and without the helmet. And so what does that mean? And a lot of opportunity to dig in and see or get an idea of maybe where we think some of this is going is, to me, that gets me excited about it, because A, that gives us a lot of content to record, but at the same time, we're going to finally have many of our questions answered, hopefully. And to me, that's just there's a lot of finality to it, but at the same time, hopefully it's going to be very satisfying for the answers that we do get. And hopefully we leave a few open-ended. I think that would be fun. But overall, I'm liking where this is going. I'm liking the tone. There's a lot of blue in here. If we had a lot of red in Last Jedi, we've got a lot of blue in this movie.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Yeah, there's a piece of me that think that's fairly intentional. But I'm excited about that. And so some scenes in this really got me amped up. The music certainly got me raring to go. So I'm more excited overall than I was, just a month ago or even 6 months ago when we saw the original teaser.
Yeah, or even a couple hours ago.
Yeah. Has it been that long already? Yeah, it has been that long already.
Yeah, it's been that long. Cool. All right. Well, we'll leave it here. And again, we just want to get something out kind of quick to kind of get some, obviously our initial thoughts out there. And we do fully plan on coming back and breaking this down to the nth degree. Because we didn't talk about like little Bubble Freak or I don't know how to say his name, but
that
there's
works.
What's that?
That works.
Yeah, Bubble Freak. We'll call him that for now. I probably got that wrong. But anyways, yeah, there's a lot more going on here. We'll get into talking about the trailer. We got the poster that came out tonight as well. So we'll shed some thoughts and light on that. Talk a little bit about, we'll get an update on Jonesy and how many tickets he's bought. And we'll come back and then, yeah, like I said, break this down. And at some point, if we don't get a chance to do it in the next episode, I would like to kind of start thinking about how we can kind of break this trailer down, at least from what we know about the different trailers themselves, and see what we can tie back to The Force Awakens, what we can tie back from The Last Jedi, and then really try to dig into where do we think he, being J.J. Abrams, is going to try to tie back to the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, because there are little bits and pieces in here that I'm picking up on that feel that way, but I want to get your thoughts and certainly get some feedback from you guys and whether I'm completely nuts or just nuts.
Should be a lot of fun.
Should be fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Buckle up, baby.
Buckle up, baby. All right. Well, thanks for joining us tonight on this really quick episode, and we'll catch you guys in about 2 days. Patreon, you'll get this thing first, and then everyone else, I think we'll leave it up to you. We'll maybe shoot for a later in the week release of the general release, or we may push it out to next Tuesday as part of our regular schedule. So stay tuned. Everything's coming.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.